joints of upper extremity. And first joint, it is not okay. This joint I show between scapula and humerus. Shoulder joint, articulatio humeri. Is it simple or compound? Simple because here it is head of the humerus and here it is glenoid cavity of the scapula, two articular surfaces. Simple joint. What is the shape of this joint? Ball and socket. Yes, it is spheroid joint, ball and socket, and multi-axial. That is all. Simple, spheroid or ball and socket, and multi-axial. In frontal axis, flexion and extension. In sagittal axis, abduction and adduction. And in vertical axis, rotation. Rotation outside, that is supination, and rotation inside, that is pronation. And the same, if we combine together flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction, we receive circumduction. Only one ligament in this joint between coracoid process of scapula and humerus, that is ligamentum coraco-humerale. Coraco-humerale. Some additional structures we have near of shoulder joint. For example, in front of scapula we have, that is a fossa subscapularis, and here it is we have the same muscle, musculus subscapularis, and this muscle pass in front of shoulder joint, and between this muscle, subscapular muscle, and lesser tubercle of humerus, we have synovial bursa synovial, bursa subtendinea, musculus subscapularis. And synovial vagina we have in sulcus intertubercularis. Here it is long head of biceps pass through this groove and attach to supraglenoid tubercle, tuberculum supraglenoidale. And in space between greater and lesser tubercles, this tendon pass in synovial vagina, vagina synovialis intertubercularis. Next joint, that is elbow joint, articulatio cubiti. Here it is, elbow joint, articulatio cubiti. It consists of how many bones? Three bones. That is why it is compound, and it is biaxial joint. Compound and biaxial joint, articulatio cubiti. In frontal axis, flexion and extension, and in vertical axis, pronation and supination, that is in elbow joint. What about shape of this joint? Here it is we describe shape between humerus and ulna, that is articulatio humero-ulnaris, that is a hinge joint. Then articulatio humero-radialis, that is spheroid joint.
So why it is called hinge joint?
Hinge between because trochlea of humerus joint with incisura trochlearis of ulna. That is why it is hinge joint. Spheroid joint between humerus and radius, that is articulatio humero-radialis, and proximal joint between radius and ulna, articulatio radio-ulnaris proximalis. This joint is cylindrical joint of the first type. Please. What about ligaments? Ligamentum collaterale ulnari start from medial epicondyle and attach to border of incisura trochlearis, from here to here. Then ligamentum collaterale radiale, it starts from lateral epicondyle, it goes to radius, subdivides into two halves, and anterior bundle attached to anterior part of incisura radialis on the ulna, and posterior bundle attached posteriorly in the same to ulna. That is why this ligament is surround radius and attached to ulna. And last ligament, the same, start from anterior border of incisura radialis. It's around head and neck of the radius and attached posteriorly to incisura radialis, that is ligamentum annulare radii. Ligamentum annulare radii. Between radius and ulna, we have
Interosis, yes.
membrana interossa antebrachii, that is foramen. Distally, radius and ulnar joint with distal radio-ulnar joint, articulatio radio-ulnaris distalis. It is simple, cylindrical of the second type, and uniaxial and combined.
Can you explain the difference between first type cylindrical and second type?
Yes. In first type, that is cylinder, and cylinder moves, and articular surface stay on its place. It's not moves. That is why it is first type. Heat is cylinder is stay, that is head of the ulna, and articular surface it's surround cylinder. That is the second type. And it is combined because this joint walk together with proximal joint together. That is why both of them are combined joints. Next joint, that is a joint between radius and hand. Give me bones of the hand. Yes. That is radiocarpal joint. Radiocarpal joint. Ulna not participate in this joint because it is, we have triangular cartilage, fibra cartilaga triangulare, and this cartilage closed ulna, and the ulna, that is why not participate in this joint, only cartilage and radius. That is why radiocarpal joint, radiocarpal, because only radius. And three bones of carpus, that is scaphoid, os lunatum, and os triquetrum. Pisiform bone, the same, not participate. That is why 1, 2, 3, 4 bones.
So does this cartilage articulate with carpal bone?
Yes, cartilage articulate with carpal bone. Yes, it's
with pisiform.
No, not with pisiform, with triquetrum. Triquetrum. Pisiform not articulate with this bone. It is a compound, ellipsoid, and biaxial joint. Frontal axis flexion, extension, sagittal axis abduction and adduction, and circumduction is possible. Biaxial joint. Next joint is mediocarpal joint, articulatio mediocarpa, between proximal and distal rows of carpal bones. And this joint has S shape. One head of this joint looks backward and another head looks forward. That is why it has S shape and walk like ellipsoid joint. It is biaxial joint. Together with radiocarpal joint participate in flexion and extension and abduction and adduction. And both of these joints, radiocarpal and mediocarpal joint, they have the same ligaments. One ligament, ligamentum collaterale carpi radiale. Another is ligamentum collaterale carpi ulnare. Ligamentum radiocarpum palmare. And ligamentum radiocarpum dorsale. And last ligament, which starts from os capitatum and goes in different directions, that is ligamentum carpi radiatum. Ligamentum carpi radiatum. We have a joint between pisiform bone and triquetrum, that is articulatio ossis pisiforme. Simple joint, and it is tight joint. Next joint, that is joints between carpal and metacarpal bones, articulatio carpa metacarpa. They are plain, simple, and tight joints. And another joint between os trapezium and first metacarpal bone, that is articulatio carpa metacarpa pollicis. This joint is simple, saddle, and biaxial joint. Next, joint between metacarpal and proximal phalanges, articulatio metacarpo phalanga. Articulatio metacarpo phalanga. All of the joints are simple, ellipsoid, and biaxial. It is in frontal axis flexion and extension, and in sagittal axis abduction and adduction. Abduction from middle finger and adduction to middle finger. And here it is, we have ligament which pass at the head of metacarpal bones, that is ligamentum metacarpum transversum profundum, deep transverse metacarpal ligament. And last, interphalangeal joints, articulatio interphalanga, proximal and distal. Only first finger has one interphalangeal joint, all another two, proximal and distal. All of them are simple, hinge joints and uniaxial, flexion and extension in frontal axis. And here it is, we have collateral ligaments, ligamentum collaterale. And last ligament, you need to know between eminentia carpi radialis and eminentia carpi ulnaris. Here it is, we have ligament retinaculum flexorum, retinaculum flexorum. That is very strong ligament, and in space between this ligament and carpal bones we have canal, canalis carpi, and all tendon of muscles goes to hang through this canal, canalis carpi, below of retinaculum flexorum. That is all.
So now this is